how do you put together a great founding team for your startup? This is a question I know a lot of you have, and I know a lot of people have difficulty finding the right people to work with. And the truth is there's no easy answer to this. But I was able to put together a great team for my new startup, OneContent. And I thought I'd share with you how I did that, and maybe you'll get some inspiration on how you yourself can put together your team. And I also want to point out that it has changed quite a lot how I put together my teams now today than I did when I was starting my first businesses 20 years ago. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But the thing is that the more you work in the startup scene and the more you get to know other entrepreneurs, the better network you have and the more likely you are to be able to find those right people to work with. So keep that in mind. If you are doing this for the first time, it is going to be a bit more difficult for you to find those people to work with. But if you have been doing it for a long time, then hopefully you'll have a good reputation and people know a little bit about who you are and what you've done, and will be more likely to want to work with you. Now, when I first got the idea for this business, I immediately thought I have to find a co-founder that I can trust. I've tried being a solo founder. I believe it's doable to be a solo founder with a startup, but I think it's very, very difficult. And I would not recommend it. It ended in burnout for me, and it's just not a good idea. If you can, always try to find a good partner, a good co-founder to work with. In my opinion, the most important thing in co-founders is trust. So keep that in mind. Find people that you trust, and if you haven't known them before, if it's the first time you work with them, go slowly into the partnership and find ways of testing how you work together. Now, in my case, I got the idea for OneContent, which was a very specific solution. I was very much looking at the market niche of online course creators. So if I could find somebody that would understand that market niche, that was important. I also wanted to find somebody who could support me and challenge me, somebody who was my equal in business, so that we could trust each other. And the first person that came up was a longtime friend of mine. Her name is Thorun. And what I did, I reached out to her and I explained to her the idea. She had also worked as an online course creator, and she had a lot of experience being an entrepreneur. She's been an entrepreneur almost as long as I have. And so she had all the experience, qualifications, like she would have been the perfect partner. At the time, she was working on another business she had, and I knew that it would not, maybe she wouldn't quite be ready to jump into it right away. But what I did is we did small projects together. She did some work for me on the business, and slowly I was able to show her what a fantastic idea this was, and kind of get her on board with us, and kind of get her to work with us. So what's also very important is when you approach people, it's to listen to what their needs are, and also just to make sure that they are a right fit for your company, and also that they are ready to become entrepreneurs, that they're willing to go into the startup game, because it's not for everybody. So some people you might want to work with, but they're not quite ready to become founders. So maybe you'll, reach out to them again when the company is more established. You want to find people that are willing to bet on your idea and are willing to kind of support you and go through the process with you. So she was my first co-founder, and Now, the problem there was that even though I have done some programming, I have good knowledge of technology, I'm not a programmer. I'm not the technical guy. So we needed to find the technical guy. And I had worked with a few of them before. And what I did is that I put together a list of all the people that I knew that had, especially people that had worked as CTOs. So I went, for example, on LinkedIn, and I looked at all my contacts of people that have been working as programmers or CTOs, and I put together a list of everybody that I was connected to there. And then I kind of filtered that out to kind of the names that I was most excited about working with. I also reached out to a few people to ask them advice and ask them if they knew anybody. And eventually, after going through a little bit of research, I ended up with a list of about 10 possible candidates. And I just reached out to all of them and started kind of talking to them and seeing if they were interested, and seeing if they were available. I mean, a few of the people there were at the time involved in other businesses or stuff like that. But I mean, it was okay to check to see if they were open to anything like this. You never know. And it was all because I knew most of them, or at least I had some communication with them. It was easy to reach out to them and just check the status. And eventually, after talking to these 10 people, some of them were just busy. We took interviews with a few of them, and we ended up offering Magnus to join us, who was actually, he had been the CTO in my last startup. So that was also great because I trusted him. I had worked with him before. I knew how the quality of his work, like he just gets things done. I love that in people I work with. Like I don't have to I don't have to manage him that much. Like he just I just have to kind of point him in the right direction, and he just continues working and working and working. So it's we were very happy to get him on the team. So now we had the three founders, and we had this killer team that was able to really tackle the problem. We had all the experience, knowledge, know-how to actually make the business idea become a reality. And this is, it's not always easy to do, because I remember when I was starting my first startup, people didn't really know who I was. I didn't have any history. Like I had no exits. I had nothing to show people other than the business idea and the fact that I was willing to work for it. And back then, I couldn't quite as much choose who I wanted to work with, but at the same time, I did have to put a lot of work into finding them. So if you are looking for an individual with certain talents, so let's say you're looking for a technical person, often go to events with technical people, reach out to the people you know and ask them if they know anybody, and try to find an individual that will be willing to work with you. So if you don't have a lot of experience, then most likely you will find a co-founder with in a similar place. So keep that in mind as well. And it's very much of a thing, as the most important thing is learning how to read people and making sure that they're the right fit. So if you're finding a co-founder, he doesn't always have to be the most experienced, most talented individual, but what's most important is that you and them work well together, that you're able to create a culture in the business that's a positive culture, that's a good culture, and then everybody you get on board has to fit into that culture that you created. And also keep in mind that the people you get in at this kind of early stage, they all have to be able to handle a little bit of uncertainty. It isn't for everybody. I've had founders that have not that or co-founders that have decided not to continue because they do not like the uncertainty. I understand that completely, but it's very important that you pick the right people so that they will come with you on this journey. Also, make sure that you're open to sharing equity in the company. I think a big mistake a lot of founders do is that they try to get great people to work with them, but they're not willing to give equity in their business. They think they're trying to keep as much of the business as they can for themselves. But these are, I mean, you're finding co-founders, you're finding people that have to put in the same work as you, they're taking the same risk as you, so they should be getting a part in the company. And so don't be afraid of that. It's much better to give a part of your company than trying to do everything yourself and not making anything out of the company. So it's, like they say, it's better to own 1% in a billion-dollar company than 100% in a company that's not worth anything. So keep that in mind. So I mean, this process of finding great founders, co-founders, it is a long process. You have to be active and going to events, reaching out to people, meeting people for coffee. I mean, it takes a long time, but these are people that you're going to be working with for the next few years. So make sure that you pick them wisely. So, I mean, in this case, because of the experience we have, because of the network that we built up over the last 20 years, we were able to put together a team of really great people. Like, I mean, everybody's very experienced. Everybody works really independently. We work well together. We all trust each other. And this was only possible because we've been doing this for a long time and we built up that network and people trust us and want to work with us. So keep that in mind if you're doing this for the first time. It's going to be a little bit of a hustle for you to find those people. But as time goes by, it becomes easier and easier. I'd love to hear from you guys, like if you have any questions about how to find founders. I've gone through this process a few times. Feel free to write questions or anything. I'd be happy to help out. And keep subscribe to us and follow us, and I'll continue sharing some of what we're doing with OneContent, how the business is evolving. I'll share some good advice on content marketing because that's what we do in OneContent. So follow us, and I'll soon post more videos like this. Thank you so much.